Hi, I watched Die Another Day yesterday with my friend. For Bond fans out there, you'll know that Die Another Day is the 20th installment of 007. And I personally think it's very underrated. It doesn't tend to do very well in lists. If you look at kind of favorite Bond films, I feel it gets some slack, perhaps for the same reason the Moonraker did. Perhaps people find the plot a little bit far-fetched. But I liked it. I liked it a lot actually. I always tend to associate The World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day together, although they're different films. They're kind of transitional. The World Is Not Enough is the last Bond film of the 20th century, one of the last films of the century, and it sort of felt like a whole sort of opening of a new era, although of course GoldenEye was the first film of the new era. But yeah, Die Another Day, suffice to say, I think it's very underrated. I'm watching the extras on it now. Um, Rosamund Pike, amazing. Jinx, fantastic partner, fun, memorable. Um, what can I say? I just really like Die Another Day. Anyway, this video is not about that. It's about the new Bond film, which also has Die in the title, No Time to Die. So that's the fourth Bond film with Die in the title, just as a point of observation. Live and Let Die, um, Die Another Day, No Time to Die, and yeah, temporarily eludes me right now. Come to me in a minute. Tomorrow Never Dies, of course. So four Bond films with Die in the title. The trailer looks quite promising. Has obviously with a Bond film, there's a limited amount that can be released. The actors are under strict guidelines because of the sort of hype that surrounds Bond films, and it's obvious that more and more is being put into individual films now. In the 60s and 70s and 80s, they were churning out a Bond film pretty much every 2 years. In the last decade, there was only two films in the whole decade, which of course was Skyfall in 2012 and Spectre in 2015. Um, so they're putting a lot more investment into these Bond films. No question about it. The four Craig films so far have been huge budget blockbusters within the series. I think they've all been good, but this new film, there's definitely echoes coming across of Doctor No. It's set in Jamaica. The villain sounds like he's kind of loosely. There may be analogies there with Doctor No. I don't think it'll be a Doctor No remake. In the way that Never Say Never Again was a Thunderball remake. And I hope it's not because that would just be silly. It would demonstrate a lack of originality. But I like the fact it's in Jamaica. That's kind of bringing it back to Doctor No. Fleming, of course, lived in Jamaica. He wrote most of the novels in Jamaica. So Jamaica has an important role in the whole Bond saga. The villain, Rami Malek, looks like, I must admit, I'm not that familiar with his work. I didn't see Bohemian Rhapsody, but my friend mentioned he was very good in that. He looks like a good villain from the little trailer showed of him. And one of my critiques of modern trailers is they give away too much. The good thing about this is it was quite subtle about the villain. It didn't show that much, but I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely go to see it. There's a few things I want to observe though based on the trailer. Firstly, I hope they do have new locations as well. I'll be disappointed if they have some alpine ski chase in Italy, and the reason being those locations have been done before. Several Bond films have shown alpine ski chases. Several Bond films have had Italian street car chases. I think locations are an understated value in Bond films, and for me, and a very important part of the franchise because kind of brings an excitement, a romance to the whole notion of what it's about. Adventure, thrills, danger, etc. So I hope they introduce a new location in this one. For example, with Casino Royale, they introduced Uganda and Madagascar. No Bond featured African locations before, with the exception of The Spy Who Loved Me, which had Egypt, but never sub-Saharan Africa. So I like that. I like the fact Quantum of Solace had a scene in Bolivia. You know, those are unusual locations that aren't usually at the top of the list of the sort of places you'd expect. There's still certain locations that have never featured being used for a Bond film. Australia, Indonesia, and there's a number of others. So for me, that's quite a big thing, and I hope that that is. Some people might undervalue that. And actually, since I'm on the topic, I may as well say, as much as I think Goldfinger is a good film, I think it's slightly overrated, just slightly. And one reason is that the locations are not that exciting. I mean, Fort Knox, Kentucky is the most different location within Goldfinger. Contrast that with Skyfall, which has Shanghai, which has Macau. It just seems more exciting somehow. That's just my opinion. I appreciate not everyone would agree with that. Anyway, there's one other, the elephant in the room that I want to bring up. This new character, Agent Lynch, who's kind of what we know seems to be a kind of rival agent within MI6. Whether she's going to be a double agent, whether she's going to be an undercover villain, I don't know. Um, well, it's that may ruffle a few feathers if they're going down a path of being woke. Let's just say it. I mean, if she is a feminist black agent who's supposed to be sort of putting Bond in his place, then it would be blatantly obvious what they're doing. And I think that would be a very big mistake if they go down that path. I mean, there's a line that a lot of people noticed in the trailer, which kind of like just stay in your lane. Now, if it's meant to be kind of a sassy thing, like, well, she's his rival or something, it might work, but Bond is the central character. So I really hope they're not going down a path of like she's Bond Mark II and they're going to give her equal importance. He is the man, the man. He is the central character of the entire Bond brand. So I'm certainly going to give it a chance, and it might be that her character is an asset to this particular film. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And it would be unfair to prejudge the character before we've even seen the film, but it just seems a little bit suspiciously like they're going down a woke path. Like, what is Bond's character? He's a womanizer. He is a lot of things. He's a white man. He's a lot of things that the identity politics people do not like. So, be interested to see how they play that out. But I will say this: the Gillette experience shows that if you try to lecture your base, all it does is polarize them. So the fact of the matter is, most fans of Bond, although it attracts a very wide fan base, let's be honest, the main target base is young men, young heterosexual men. That's not to say like obviously anyone can watch it. I'm not saying like it should only be, but that is probably, if you look at the demographics of people who watch the Bond films, it's probably young men, say between late teens to early 40s sort of age group, roughly speaking. It's very approximate. So if that base demographic feels that they're starting to be lectured to vis-a-vis Bond, like through Bond, then I think it will polarize people. And let me just say, I mean, this will be for another video. I might bring this up in another video closer to the time, but there's no doubt it will be an issue in the future. Bond cannot be a woman, and that is not a sexist statement. It's quite simple. Bond was never written as a woman, right? I'd have no issue with having a spy film where a woman is the central character. In fact, we've had that, Red Sparrow, with Jennifer Lawrence. Very good film, very good thriller, and she was the central character, and it worked. That's fine. But you cannot just hijack a brand and inject something into it that was never a part of it in the first place. James Bond was never meant to be Jill Bond. It just was never meant to be that way. So to me, that would just be absurd. And my simple question to feminists who say, "Oh, but it's time to move on, time to make the character a woman." okay, in that case, is Lara Croft going to be a man? It would be a ridiculous idea and it shouldn't happen, in my opinion. It would just be tearing up what Ian Fleming intended the character to be. It would no longer be Bond. So make a film about a woman spy, fine. No, I've no issue with that. It's the issue isn't that a woman can't be a spy. The issue isn't that a woman can't be strong and etc. All the things that Bond is. Just don't call her Bond. Don't put it under the Bond brand because it would just be ridiculous. So I don't know. We'll see how it develops, but I'm looking forward to the film. I'll certainly go to watch it. I have to say, every film of the modern era I feel has been good. I haven't been disappointed in any of them from GoldenEye onwards. Out of the whole series, and this is maybe more for another video, but probably for me personally, the films that I found least enthralling were probably For Your Eyes Only and The Living Daylights. Those two just didn't quite hit the mark for me in the way that the others did. But I don't think there's a single Bond film that I would say is a bad film in its own right. But anyway, I will be making more videos on this. I'm a pretty big Bond fan, not like obsessively so, but I've seen all the films several times. I've got them all. Um, and I'd say probably an above average Bond fan. Incidentally, with this film, it looks like they're having some continuity with characters like Léa Seydoux is coming back, um, and so on. So that might be interesting to see how that plays out. Craig is superb at the role, so he'll be big shoes to fill. For me personally, my favorite Bond is probably still Pierce Brosnan, simply because he was kind of the Bond of my generation in the sense when I first started watching the films, it was Pierce Brosnan was the man. So I like Roger Moore, although I don't think he's the world's best actor. The Roger Moore have brought something to it that I really like. I can't explain it. It was a charming thing. It was a sort of he was the English gentleman, and I think that played a role. But anyway, each of the Bonds, each of the actors, I think, have brought something to it in their own way. Dalton and Lazenby never really had time to be truly tested. But anyway, I'll leave it there. That's my thoughts on the trailer for No Time to Die. I like the fact it's brought back to Jamaica in that sense. The villain in Rami Malek looks very good. I'm just a little bit unsure about these overtones of, you know, that line. I cringe a little bit, like, just you stay in your lane, Bond, or I'll shoot you. Like, what the hell? It's like he is the man. Stay in his lane. It's James Bond. He is the central character. So if they go down a path of being woke, well, give it a chance.